Long time no see, St. James. I'm Adam Michael, a longtime member of the church. I'm also a reporter at the Gettysburg Times. Pastor Mike asked me to talk a little bit about how I have felt supported during this pandemic. Seeing as I never have a shortage for words, I figured I'd give it a shot. We moved into our new home on March 13th, which happened to be Friday the 13th. That was the same day that literally everything closed. Businesses went, they weren't allowed to have anybody in. The schools, shut down completely and we're going digital for the rest of the year. The college basically evacuated the campus, and everything just went really quiet really fast. Fortunately, on that day and the next couple of days, we were so busy that we barely even got to engage with it. I remember being more behind on the news than I think I've ever been, just because we were so incredibly busy, getting our house together, making sure everything worked right, just the typical growing pains. But when I was actually able to gather my faculties, I realized how scary this was. Not only because it was a pandemic and we knew nothing about it. We'd watched all the movies and they created all the horror in our minds about what could potentially happen. But also because as an education reporter, nobody was in school anymore. As somebody who made a little extra money on the side with sports, there was no sports coverage anymore. And I was starting to worry that I might not have a job. Working at the newspaper, we're always telling stories about the community. And in this case, we were the community a little bit. While everybody else was forced to close, we lost a lot of ad revenue as well. And so we're sitting there trying to figure out how to make ends meet. We had to make some cuts, some permanent, some temporary. Some people were laid off. And even the people that were working, myself, fortunately, one of those people, we were cut down to 30-hour days. So what that meant was that we had the same amount of work to do, but a lot less people to do it. We were unfortunately had to reduce down to 30 days of print. I'm sorry, 3 days of print per week. But we were still doing 6 online editions per week and essentially the same amount of copy with a lot less people. So it was a really scary time. I use a lot of quotes to get through life, especially in really important or kind of scary times. So the one by Martin Luther King Jr., faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase, has always been a motto that has helped pull me through some of the darkest times in my life. In this time, I just made sure I kept moving with one foot in front of the other. As we did so at the paper, there were a lot of long days, a lot of I won't say unpaid hours, but just time that we were going to have to get back at some point. We got a lot of letters of support, though, from the community, which, one or two every once in a while can mean a lot to you. But when you're getting 15, 20, 25 letters in a week from people just saying that we're doing a good job and they're cheering for us and they want us to be out there giving them as much news as possible, it was enough to, really stir up some emotions. During the regular year, we deal with some pretty unpleasant customers. As the paper's not here on time. I can't log into my online access, and we're a small business, so getting those things handled isn't always as quick as it would be if you were working with a corporate business. But people are not always so nice about that. But for the 3 or 4 weeks after the pandemic broke, really 3 or 4 months, people were just a lot nicer about that, and it really gave me a lot of hope as we were moving forward. It was kind of a lifeline. I think had people been negative at that moment, all of us may have just said, "This is too much. We don't want to do this anymore." So that was a really important time. One other thing I wanted to touch on was that it can be tough to write about other people's loss. People were hurting, businesses are going belly up, and at times I was just sitting there questioning, are we just like rubbing other people's faces in this at this point? There's a lot of despair. But almost every single time that we wrote a story about somebody's business going belly up or just times being tough, somebody in the community would step up to help the people in need. We had hundreds of people making masks, across the county. People that we'd never even really expected much from were suddenly given thousands of N95 masks to hospitals, and it was really neat to feel that community effort coming together. The other way I felt supported, my home was kind of my sanctuary. My fiance and I discussed the challenges of the day every day when I'd get home. We'd swap solutions. And it's a little thing, but our three dogs actually brought us a lot of joy. They all have like these ridiculous personalities, and I like to do these little voices for them, where it kind of allows me to make some commentary that I probably wouldn't make as a human being, and be a little sarcastic with them. Some people that probably sounds ridiculous. Other you are probably nodding your heads, thinking maybe I do a little bit of the same thing too. But either way, it just really helped us. Keep laughing a lot. And I think laughter is one of those things that you need when you're going through some tough times as a community. And even though we didn't see my parents as often and my brothers and sisters, pretty much not at all, it was really important that we got to connect with them. I think having online conversations and things like that was helpful. Facebook was helpful. And my mom ended up knitting me a pandemic mask with my hero Spider-Man on it. So when you talk about support, what more support can you ask for than that? Before I finish today, I just want to talk a little bit about hope, because I believe hope is a self-generated support. I've fallen backwards into the best things in my life that ever happened to me. That's mostly just to say that any plan that I had has not led to the best things that have happened to me. So I've learned that when things don't go according to plan, to just kind of wait it out and see what comes of it. There will be a rebound, there will be a recovery. So during some of the darker times in my life, I developed a plan for how I wanted to engage the world. Each night before bed, I'd write down how I could improve myself in a way that would pay it forward in the long run. I know that self-improvement seems a little bit selfish on its face. I mean, Jesus tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves. But in order for that to work, we must first know how to love and care for ourselves. So every night, I would make small achievable goals to perform the next day. Smiling at everyone I saw, standing with a strong, confident posture, loosening my clenched jaw, running further than I did the day before, or maybe just reading a book that would help me build some strong habits. And then on days when I became frustrated and couldn't fulfill my plan for personal growth, my plan B was always to positively affect somebody else that was in need. So that if plan A didn't work, I'd switch quickly, and some days that meant committing to listening to some friends without interruption or self-reflection. Other times it was just finding somebody who was stressed out or anxious and cracking jokes to ease the tension. Sometimes I'd just buy a friend a meal or say yes to something that I would have normally said no to. None of these habits have helped me to understand why bad things happen to good people, nor have they explained any of the dark mysteries of the universe. But each has allowed me to show my love by paying deep attention to myself and others. That allowed me to feel a little more in harmony with the world around me. And that is what I ultimately hope for.